Hi everyone, Josh Cerejo back with episode 2 of Mentality Reboot. I appreciate everyone that watched episode 1 and the people that liked and interacted with the YouTube short that I posted. I appreciate all of the support and I'm looking forward to continuing this journey. So, on today's episode, what we're going to be discussing is discipline, how we can stay consistent, self-doubt and overcoming it, and to tie it all together, we're going to finish with mental strength. Now, to start the episode, what I wanted to shed a little bit of light on is this quote from Marcus Aurelius. And it's, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And I think carrying this quote with us throughout this episode would be kind of a great thing to keep in mind. And, maybe considering it to be one of the themes of the episode, because you really do become a reflection of your own thoughts. When you degrade yourself, you're abusing yourself. When you give into ego, you're inflating yourself in the same type of way that the abuse is causing you to deflate. And your soul takes on the form of whatever you believe you are. When you believe that you're strong, that you're confident, that you're charismatic, and you continue to reinforce that, even if it's not true, at some point you will begin to act as if it were true. And even if you are a very competent person, if you get into a cycle of abusing yourself, telling yourself that you're worthless, telling yourself that you're not smart, you will eventually reflect those beliefs within yourself. So, going forward, moderate your thoughts, and hopefully this episode will kind of shed light on why that's important. So to start off the conversation, we're going to be looking at discipline and how can you build unshakable discipline when you're starting from zero. And it all begins with small commitments. It's showing up daily, no matter how you feel. It's doing the things that you don't want to do, even the small things. Jordan Peterson, make your bed, clean up your room. It's doing these things, doing them consistently, and then building off of those. So, what is it about? It's about going to the gym when you don't feel like going to the gym. It's about eating healthy when you want to eat junk food. It's about holding true to your commitments even when nobody else is watching. Keeping your word to yourself and making that one of your primary goals throughout your discipline kind of oriented path and journey is, in my opinion, extremely important. And we're going to touch more on this later on in the episode, but being true to yourself is it's a strength. And it gives you the ability to believe in what you're saying. It heightens the respect that you have for yourself, and telling lies and making excuses to yourself, even if you're not telling them to anyone else, and you think that, I'm getting away with it, you're not getting away with it. You know better than that. And you might be in denial about it, but unconsciously, you know that you slacked off on going to the gym. You know that you could have done more today. So, be true to yourself, and, we'll talk more about that in a bit. So, with these small commitments and kind of building up, you could do this with medium commitments, however you want to structure it. But focusing on the systems that you can put in place, building routines, which will make the discipline aspect easier, is important. When you make routines, try to arrange them in a way that makes it easier to do that habit, that routine, whatever it is. If you can't resist unhealthy snacks, don't have them in the pantry. Don't buy them at the grocery store. Get rid of them. Get them out of sight. If you skip the gym because it is 15 minutes away from home, it's not on the way to work, try to find a gym that's in between work and your house. That way you have no excuse. You can hit the gym on the way to work, or you can hit it on the way back. Find a gym that has a shower, get in there, take a quick shower, then go to work. You know, make it easier for you so that you have less excuses. Because when you have all these different excuses, it's very easy to give into it. Yeah, I didn't go to the gym today because it's 15 minutes from home and I had to take my daughter to soccer practice and I had to cook dinner and I had to do all these other things and I couldn't shower. So I couldn't get in there before work neither. No, just listen. There are ways to get it done. Make it easier for yourself. Discipline isn't about doing something that's necessarily hard. It's about finding a way to get yourself to do it. And making it easier for yourself is completely fine. Don't tyrannize yourself. Don't make yourself get into a routine that's impossible to maintain, causing you to, slack in other areas. Make it easier for yourself. There's going to be less friction. You're going to be happier with it. Just try that. Setting up systems which prevent already unappealing routines from becoming more unattractive is important. Just cut away the excuses and all the excess. Some of the systems that I've put in place include meal prepping on Sundays. That way I don't need to go out. I don't need to, I don't need to DoorDash. I don't need to spend 30 minutes in a car going to, Chipotle. I don't need to spend 45 minutes cooking dinner after a long work day and I've worked out. I cook, me and my girlfriend, we cook about 30 meals worth total. And then that takes about 2.5 hours. You do all the dishes at once too. Very simple. Works out for me, makes more sense for me. So that's one of the things that I do. Another example is I've stopped using an alarm clock. I wake up naturally now. And I've done that because I've realized that I have friction and issues obeying the alarm clock. I hear it and it almost immediately makes me want to go back to sleep, even if I've been asleep for 8 hours. But waking up naturally, it makes me feel better. I've completed my sleep cycle. So, as I said before, it's not about doing things that are harder. Make it easier for yourself. Make that discipline easier to achieve. So what's the most underrated tool for staying consistent? I think this depends on the person. One of the things that is beneficial is journaling or tracking your habits in some way. You can do the James Clear method where you bubble in the circle. You get to see, hey, I've been doing this for 30 days straight. Gives a little bit of motivation, kind of keeps you accountable. You could do what I do where I journal. I write down my goals for the day. I do a reflection at the end of the day. This way, there's that sense of accountability. You get to see when you're consistently hitting all of your goals and tasks for the day. Both methods clearly shrouded in this accountability aspect. And it also makes you feel more productive to write down, all the things that you did today, all the ways that you hit your goals, kind of what held you back. It gives you ways to improve, and the same with the James Clear method. You feel productive. You get to see all the dots across the page, and it shows that you're sticking to it, that you're working hard. So what I do, I journal, but I also do separate writing prompts throughout the week. And these are completely separate from my journal, and they're not every day. They're maybe 3 to 4 times a week. I write about my beliefs that I'm trying to live by. I'm writing about the things that I want to reinforce within myself. And I think that this is one of the most underrated tools. This helps me to reinforce my commitments to habits that I'm trying to build. It helps me to flesh out beliefs that I have in more depth. It really helps you to gain a better kind of more self-awareness, I suppose. You have to deconstruct exactly why you believe in something. We're kind of this mess of thoughts and feelings. And you say that you believe something, but why do you believe that? And working on these writing prompts, I think it helps you to, maybe put a name to the emotion or feeling that you're thinking, but then also put that aside and think about your belief rationally and without emotion. So, great tool. Once again, gives the accountability aspect because you're writing it down, you're fully fleshing it out, you're going to remember it better, and you can look back at it 2 months later and go, that's what I believe, that's why I believe it, and that's why I wanted to do it. So, try it. I think that it makes you wiser as well. People need to reflect a little bit more than we do nowadays. So, hugely beneficial. The most important tool, which I hit on a moment ago in the previous question, is holding yourself accountable and stop thinking that it's all right to lie to yourself. If someone kept lying to you every single day, or they kept flaking on you, and they were all talk with no action, you would stop believing in that person. And you have that same relationship with yourself. If you tell yourself that you're going to wake up at 7 a.m. and you don't wake up at 7 a.m., and then you do that 100 more times, well, what do you have to show for that? You can't even get up at 7 a.m. And I'm completely guilty of this. I have huge problems with that. Like I was saying a moment ago, I had very bad problems with the alarm clock. And, I've broken my word to myself so many times. But being able to trust yourself, it goes a very long way. Telling yourself that you're going to go to the gym, that you're going to start working out, that you're going to start exercising and eating healthy, and then actually doing that, it builds your respect for yourself. If you keep saying that you're going to do X and you never do X, all that you've done is hurt yourself. You now believe in yourself less. You don't find yourself to be respectable or trustworthy. So why would you think that you could do something that's difficult, that requires courage and commitment? You need to parent yourself to a very large degree. That's what discipline is. It's about having the wherewithal to, one, only say what you mean, but also to not allow yourself to back down just because no one is watching. We fear this being caught in a lie by other people because you spin a web of lies and then you kind of got to work your way around it. And if you're just truthful, you're authentic within yourself, you don't lie, and not even to yourself, you don't have to worry about that. And it's a great feeling. You're not tiptoeing around, hey, what did I tell this person? What have I told that person? You know what you've said because it's who you are. And if it's something that, you're kind of thrown off by, it's not really that much of a concern because you can sort it out. You're trustworthy, you're honest. Whatever the misunderstanding is or whatever the kind of confusion is, if it's something that you did, well, good news is you're an honest person, so you're going to acknowledge it. And, if it was a mistake that you made, you're going to acknowledge it and you're going to learn from it. And taking that same approach with yourself is incredibly important. You need to be able to trust yourself. And to stay on topic with accountability, start leveraging external systems like partners and apps If you don't have it within yourself in the beginning to hold yourself accountable, then look to a friend, a parent, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. Um, Unfortunately, most people don't have others that are really deep into the self improvement space. But if you have people that love and care for you, then they would hopefully be willing to keep you accountable on something that's fairly simple. You know, maybe if you can't get a gym partner, a gym buddy, ask your mom, ask your brother, sister, whoever, hey, if I skip the gym on Tuesday or this week, call me out on it. It's that simple. Um, and if you're maybe too embarrassed to do that with people that you know, I mean, finding a gym partner is really easy. That's not really directly asking for them to hold you accountable. But if you find a gym partner, you go with your partner or your friend, them wanting to go to the gym and asking you to go to the gym will be a source of accountability. Now, the same can go for if you want to go for walks, get a hiking buddy, join a book club to hold yourself accountable so that you read more. There's so many different ways nowadays to hold yourself accountable. Um, and another way, they don't do as much for me, but apps. If you need to block social media, I would recommend an app like Opal. But I would also delete the apps just to completely get the temptation away from you. You know, apps are a good resource, but I prefer not to rely on them too much because it's more of a block. And once that block is gone, it's very easy to fall back into old patterns, old habits. And, you know, most of the time you can also find a way to get around these apps. You can delete the app, you can go in the settings and turn it off. It's really not the greatest tool, but it's helpful. To bring it full circle back to discipline, to stay consistent, discipline is going to be the greatest tool. Um, it's better than motivation. Discipline will always beat motivation. Motivation is not going to last. Getting in the gym after being pumped up from watching Rocky or 300 is easy. That motivation doesn't exist when you're on week 12 of going to the gym, of going on a run every day. Motivation is from the external world, discipline comes from within. If you're going to grow, you need to be able to do things that you don't have the energy or motivation to do. That is the most concise way that I could put it. All these tools are great. They can help you build the discipline. But at the end of the day, it really just comes down to getting it done. Don't give in. Don't stop. There are no excuses. If you miss a day of tracking your habits, but you hit all your habits, you're still fine. There are some people that get so locked in their heads about it. Oh, I wasn't able to wake up and take my cold shower, and I didn't journal this morning, and I didn't have my supplements and electrolytes, so now I'm completely thrown off today, and I already messed up that part of my routine. Maybe I shouldn't go to the gym, yada 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 yada. No, none of that matters. If you miss one routine, hit the next one. If you forget to journal, still hit your habits. It doesn't matter. The point is, all these tools are great. It comes down to just fucking doing it. So moving on to overcoming self-doubt. How do you silence the inner critic when the self-doubt is overpowering? I think it's more about acting despite those negative thoughts than it is about silencing them. Because you could be completely right in the criticisms that are causing the self-doubt. So you also have awareness of what could be better, and that's good. What's bad is letting that inner critic prevent you from moving forward. You can acknowledge it, that, hey, I am out of shape. I don't know how to exercise in the gym properly, and I'm probably going to look out of place. But that's all right, because it's a prerequisite to becoming fit, and everyone had to enter the gym in some shape or fashion in a similar manner. So, in the very beginning, when you have no evidence, when you have really, you don't really have anything to grasp at besides just this idea, this belief in yourself of what you could be. It's not really that you silence that inner critic yet. You start to silence the inner critic once you have enough experience and evidence to support that you won't fail. The inner critic is a fear of failure and embarrassment. And it goes away once you no longer keep shedding light on those fears. Having self-doubt and hearing that inner critic, by the way, it doesn't make you a perfectionist. This is an excuse that a lot of people make. Oh, I'm not releasing that song, or I can't start my blog post yet because I don't have the website set up, and I don't have pictures for the blog, or I don't have, the greatest music set up. I'm trying to figure that all out right now, and it's just not going to be perfect. I really want to get things tuned up before I release it. Bro, you have zero experience. You've never written a song before. You've never made a blog post before. Why are you thinking that everyone's going to be watching it? That everyone's going to be listening, everyone's going to be reading it? No one's going to fucking know. I mean, you could tell people about it, you could send it to people, but at the end of the day, you being a perfectionist when you've never done it before isn't going to equate to anything. You need the experience to be able to get closer to perfection. When you're first starting anything, you are nowhere near perfect. When you start practicing baseball or Muay Thai, soccer, football, whatever it is, you fucking suck. You don't say, hey, coach, at 12 years old, I'm not ready to play in the game. I think I need a couple more years to really perfect my craft. Coach is going to look at you and go, what the heck is this kid talking about? So, get rid of that. Perfectionism has nothing to do with your fear or, it's just an excuse for 99% of people. It's just an excuse. Please get over it. Stop using it as a reason for why you've never done anything. So let's move on from that. I know that so many people think that they're perfectionists. But what are some ways that you can overcome self-doubt? I think that it starts with embracing failure. Shout out to the perfectionist. Embracing failure. It's not going to be perfect. And understand that nobody is going to remember it anyways. Nobody. You think if you're going to start a blog post, all of a sudden, every single person that you know from high school or from college is going to hear about that blog? I guarantee you, your own parents won't hear about it because you'll be too afraid to tell them. So, just calm down. And if anyone does find it, if anyone does, say, hey, I saw that YouTube video. It's kind of shitty. Yeah, hey, asshole. I'm on episode 2. Okay? It's not a big deal. Who cares? You're going to see them 2 years down the line, and if they bring it up and you gave up, Okay, yeah, it was just a little project that I was testing out. I'm gonna hope that you don't give up. I'm gonna hope that you stick with it. But if it does work out, now, hey man, remember when episode 2 came out and it sucked? Dude, you're doing great now. Like, that's how it goes. Don't be afraid of the failure. There's no humiliation. And most likely, no one will remember it and no one will see it in the beginning. So, another way to overcome that self doubt is consistently trying new things, especially the ones that make you cringe a little bit. You know, kind of like what I was talking about earlier. Could be publishing that blog, could be releasing that new song that you've been working on, going to the gym, trying a new sport, picking up a new hobby, activities and actions that you can't really do only behind closed doors. It's like shedding light on it. I think that's a big part of it. It's easy to sit inside your room and create a Shopify store over the course of a week and think that it's awesome. And then you publish it, everything's awesome. It's a much more different situation once it's time to finally go, hey, I'm gonna now advertise this on my personal social media that I created this Shopify. I think getting comfortable with the nature of doing things in public is a big one. And there's kind of an odd duality there because the things that you're confident in, you want to do it in public because you get the attention, but then you might lack the motivation to do it in private. The things that you have self-doubt regarding, you might be motivated to do in private, but too afraid to show it to other people. So I think just getting in the mode of, hey, I want to start this, don't be afraid. You know, you're not going to show up to a wrestling class or a jiu-jitsu class for the first time and people are going to make fun of you. No one's going to make fun of you. They're going to understand. They were a white belt at some point too. They took their first class at some point. So getting used to that discomfort, it's going to help you overcome self-doubt and just get used to the fact that sucking at things in the beginning or sucking at things in general, but trying to become better at them is perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal. So the next one, stop degrading yourself. This is very hard. For some reason, it's become normal to be your biggest enemy rather than your biggest fan. I don't really subscribe to the affirmation, manifestation cult. However, a lot of people have never even been nice to themselves. So many people live in a perpetual cycle of just beating themselves up, of thinking that they're worthless, of thinking that they can't do anything. And it's no wonder why they don't have the courage to get in the gym, why they don't have the courage to start the book that they always wanted to. They have zero self-belief. And I think that to get out of that cycle, it's perfectly fine to do some affirmation work, just finding a new way to speak to yourself. Because going from making a mistake and going, I'm such an idiot, I can never do things correctly, to, I made a mistake. Oh, that's okay. I'll try to pay more attention next time. It's a massive change. You're no longer degrading yourself, no longer being super duper hard on yourself. And I think it's important. I think writing down affirmations before bed or early in the morning can be very powerful because, like I was saying, it might be the first time many people have ever told themselves something along the lines of, I'm confident, I am smart, I can do the things that I set my mind to, I am in control of my life. And It's about changing the perspective for these people. I prefer evidence over simple self-belief because self-belief is negligible if you never act on it, right? But the issue is that you're even less likely to act if you don't believe in yourself. If you can never believe in yourself, why would you try to do something that might be hard and embarrassing? That's likely going to result in failure. So it's not so much a belief in a specific thing that matters. The belief that matters is you are in control. And overwhelming self-doubt takes that control away from most people. So acknowledge your doubt, but believe that you can move forward despite your fundamental inadequacies, and know that it won't be enough to cause real change by itself. You need to act. Have the self-belief in yourself, but begin to generate evidence through action. I think that is incredibly important. Don't just tell yourself that I'm smart, I'm strong, great things are going to come my way, and then go watch Netflix. It's about telling yourself things that are going to move you in the correct direction and reframe your line of thinking from I'm a loser and I can't do anything to, hey, I have it within myself to change the situation that I'm in. I can take control of my life. I can do the things that I set my mind to. So, can self-doubt ever be a strength, or is it always a weakness? I think that self-doubt is a spectrum. It's not simply one thing. It's a weakness when it prevents action, and a strength when it helps you to see potential issues before they occur. It can be an anchor which causes stagnation, or an obstacle to overcome which leads to growth. It could also be a signal that you're doing something hard and worthwhile, or it could be a warning that you're doing something completely wrong. Chris Williamson and Alex Hormozy had a great conversation on the idea of hard, which I think can be directly associated with self-doubt. Alex Hormozy said, I think a lot of entrepreneurship and even personal growth is training yourself on how you respond to hard. Because in the early days, hard was, ooh, stop. This isn't good. This is a warning sign. This is a red flag. I should slow down or I should stop. I should pivot. But the more I think about it as a competitive landscape, I'm clear on what this path is supposed to look like. And these rocks and these dragons are things that I'm going to have to slay along the way to get the princess or get the treasure. And I get happier about the harder it is because I know that no one else will follow. Chris Williamson described it as a selection effect. Self-doubt depends on the situation and your framing of it. Presumably, as you go through life, you should learn how to better handle self-doubt and differentiate healthy versus destructive doubt. A life of hardship and challenges will certainly force you to learn quickly, and learning to really understand what that self-doubt is, where it's coming from, recognizing whether or not it's a warning, whether or not it's a signal that you're doing something right, or simply being able to take the feedback of, I'm a little bit worried about the way that video might look. I'm a little bit worried that I'm kind of regurgitating content in this blog post. Maybe that's a sign that you should be worried about those things, and you have the foresight to recognize that there are some issues. So utilize self-doubt sometimes. It's not always a bad thing. So to tie all of this together, like I said, we're going to end it on mental strength. And all of the stuff that we've discussed, discipline, overcoming self-doubt, it all requires mental strength. So what's the best way to develop mental strength when you live in a comfortable environment? And it's crazy because all of this stuff is connected like a web. It all links to one another. Controlled challenges, the undertaking of this sort of voluntary suffering, voluntary hardship, things like cold showers, running, working out, reading, journaling, and meditation, they aren't groundbreaking. They're not even that difficult, if we're going to be honest. It's the consistency that is difficult, but that's the part that develops mental strength, which develops discipline, which helps you overcome self-doubt. So, with this voluntary suffering, to tie it back to an earlier point, it's the need for consistency. That one time you took a cold shower when you were motivated doesn't actually matter. As we said, going to the gym after watching Rocky, doing all this stuff when you're all fired up, it means so much less than when you're on the 50th time doing it. You've been doing it for 2 years. Once that motivation is gone, once that fiery inspiration begins to fall off, what matters is honing the mental strength and discipline to grow, to commit to doing these things. And mental strength is necessary to take on the unavoidable difficulties in life. Building mental strength helps to regulate your emotions, respond instead of react. These culminate in a position where you have greater control of yourself. Life is chaotic, and sometimes it can be downright scary. If you're not prepared, it's going to blindside you. Life is going to blindside you regardless, actually. But you can be in a much better position to take on those hardships. For example, if you're out in public, someone starts harassing you and your partner, you're about to get in a fight, and you've never had an adrenaline dump before, your mind can just completely go blank. Not saying that you're going to, freeze or flee. You might go into the fight mode, but even fighting when your mind is completely blank after an adrenaline dump is a very surreal experience. But you can be more equipped to take that on if you train in martial arts. Doing things that kind of get the adrenaline pumping, I think are great. And it'll keep you safer too. Because, adrenaline, when you haven't had a big adrenaline spike in a while, it's kind of a shock to the system. And working out, journaling, meditation, all these things that will just kind of do a traditional strengthening of the mind, making you calmer, more rational. Those things will obviously be helpful. But preparing for situations that are a little bit outside of the norm, will never hurt. And being able to find clarity when everything around you is spiraling into chaos, it's a superpower. You're able to see things for what they really are. This goes for, arguments, relationship problems, all of these things. When everything's going crazy, and you can take a step back, look around, look inside yourself, and come to a rational conclusion, and then help everything kind of settle. It's very useful. And, can keep you safe. It can keep your relationship healthy. But even more than that, it's obviously helpful to you. It helps the people around you. And, a lot of people grew up in very toxic environments where they've never learned how to communicate, never learned how to have an argument, a disagreement, or anything like that. So they get all fired up, and you never actually kind of close off the argument or conversation. You just kind of butt heads and then hold a bit of a grudge. Yeah, being someone that can actually take a step back and calm everything down and acknowledge both your side and the other side is great. I think one of the things that I forget who I heard this from, but when you're in an argument, especially with a partner, is going, hey, I'm going to say 3 things that I handled poorly about this, and I'm going to say 3 things that I thought that you did well about it. And then I'd like you to do the same. And then going ahead and doing that can really de-escalate things and help you find common ground. So look for the calm within the chaos. Mental strength, discipline, all of these things, they help you to have better control, better self-control, and that's going to give you more control in all aspects of your life. You're no longer going to be at the mercy of your emotions. You're no longer going to be at the mercy of reacting. So focus on really overcoming. Let me think of kind of the correct word here. I guess overcoming yourself is the only way that I could put it. Overcome yourself. Overcome that part of you that doesn't want to do these things, that would rather be lazy and be distracted, and cultivate that discipline, cultivate that mental strength, and that will help you overcome self-doubt. That will help you silence that inner critic in the long run. And hopefully for the people that have a very loud inner critic or suffer from continually degrading themselves, cultivating some discipline and some mental strength will kind of quiet that chatter. And if that doesn't, I mean, this took a while for me as well. Discipline and mental strength only went so far. Was beginning to speak to yourself nice. And because when you speak to yourself nice, you'll see the contrast between the two, between the times where you're telling yourself that I can do this, that this is completely within my control, that I have it within me to grow, that, you know, I made a mistake, but I can come back from this. In contrast to, you're an idiot, you never do anything right, you're worthless. That type, once you start being nice to yourself, the contrast is pretty startling, and you'll catch yourself and stop yourself very quickly. So hopefully the stuff that I've talked about today will be of use. I'll be back with episode 3 within the next, hopefully 5 days or so. I'm going to try to be pretty consistent here, as I said last episode. And thanks for watching.